I couldn't believe that a HOA Karen could abuse her power and steal someone else's ice cream until I became the victim of the theft myself. I will make Karen never forget the taste of this special ice cream. Welcome to Karen Karma. Have you ever encountered a HOA Karen? Share your story in the comments below. My neighborhood used to be a peaceful place where small streets and charming houses created a friendly and cozy environment. People lived harmoniously, respecting each other's property rights, and conflicts were rare. We always treated each other like family, occasionally gathering for outdoor barbecue parties or taking leisurely walks in the park during our free mornings. But all of that changed when Karen became the president of the Homeowners Association, HOA. With power in her hands, Karen gradually transformed this neighborhood into a place where freedom no longer existed, a place where every resident had to live under her shadow. She began imposing strict rules, disregarding the emotions or opinions of the residents. She even made decisions related to the personal property of each individual without seeking their consent. One afternoon, after a long and tiring day at work, I returned home, exhausted but eager because I had been saving my favorite ice cream for the whole week. It wasn't just a snack, it was a well deserved reward for myself after all the hard hours of labor. I imagined myself relaxing in my favorite chair, savoring the cold ice cream, and enjoying the view outside the window. But as soon as I stepped into the house, I was startled to find Karen sneaking near my window, her eyes fixated on the refrigerator. At first, I thought nothing of it, but the more I observed, the more I felt something was off. Normally, she never appeared around my house without a reason. At that moment, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. Could she be the one who took my favorite ice cream? I immediately rushed inside, opened the refrigerator, and saw that my ice cream was gone. I felt an indescribable surge of anger, and one thing was clear. Karen was the culprit. There was no doubt. She had stolen my ice cream without even asking. I couldn't remain silent any longer. The feeling of being violated so many times was enough to push me to the edge. I went straight to Karen's house, knocked on her door with the determination not to let her get away with it. When she opened the door, I couldn't hide my anger. I pointed at her and confronted her. "Where's my ice cream, Selena?" Karen looked at me, her eyes full of arrogance, and then she suddenly mocked. "Oh, that ice cream? I thought it was just a snack. What's the big deal? You're just a selfish person who doesn't know how to share." Her words were like a knife slicing through my patience, making me feel like not only had she taken my ice cream, but also that the respect in our relationship had been shattered. I could feel my anger boiling inside, but I held it back, refusing to show her my weakness. In my mind, a plan for revenge began to take shape. I couldn't tolerate it anymore. I thought to myself, she had always belittled my rights and feelings, and it was time to teach her a lesson, to make her understand that she couldn't just keep doing whatever she wanted without facing consequences. Everything suddenly became clear, and I knew what I had to do to end the situation. After that incident, I knew that if I didn't do something, Karen would never understand the consequences of invading my property. She thought she could do anything without being held accountable. In the following days, I began noticing something strange. Every time I opened the refrigerator, the amount of ice cream inside seemed to dwindle rapidly. I wanted to let it go, but then it happened again and again. My favorite ice cream was always missing a part every time I opened the freezer, making me feel incredibly angry. I started paying closer attention and realized that no one but Karen could be the one secretly taking it. She made me feel as though everything was under her control, with no respect for anyone else's property. Every time I opened the fridge, I felt like I was being violated. My anger continued to rise, and I knew that if I didn't do something, she would never understand the consequences of her actions. And then, an idea began to form in my mind. I decided I had to replace the ice cream that Karen had stolen. But this time, it wouldn't just be any ordinary ice cream. I would turn it into a lesson she could never forget. I decided to find the hottest chili powder in the world. This chili is known for its ability to burn and shock anyone who eats it. And I couldn't think of a better way for her to understand the consequences of invading someone else's property without permission. After purchasing the chili powder, I returned home, filled with determination. And I secretly replaced the ice cream in the fridge, carefully sprinkling the chili powder into the ice cream's filling, mixing it well, and placing it back in the same spot. Everything happened quickly and perfectly. I was sure Karen wouldn't suspect anything, because she always felt confident she could do whatever she wanted without any concern. I stood there, looking at the ice cream in the fridge, telling myself I didn't want to cause her serious harm. I just wanted her to realize that she couldn't keep abusing her power and disregarding other people's rights. This ice cream would be the way for her to understand that her actions could have unforeseen consequences. An hour later, I heard Karen walking past my house. I knew for sure that she had seen the ice cream in the fridge, and not long after, she would eat it. Just a few spoonfuls would make her realize what I wanted to convey. As I stood from afar, I felt an oddly calm sensation. Just a little more time, and she would realize the lesson I had prepared for her. Now, I just had to wait. When Karen entered the room and saw the ice cream in the fridge, I could see her eyes light up with delight. She had no suspicion at all. On the contrary, she smiled happily as if this was the most ordinary thing. I stood in the shadows of the living room, my eyes never leaving her. My heart raced, but I kept calm, knowing that everything would be resolved soon. Karen grabbed the ice cream, not even bothering to check, simply peeling off the wrapper and beginning to eat. She enjoyed each spoonful, unaware that with every bite, she was getting closer to a nightmare. The sweet ice cream was gradually transforming into a painful experience. I stood still, not making a move, just watching her. I knew that in a moment, she would feel the intense heat of the chili powder I had added. At first, there would be a sweet, pleasant taste, but slowly the heat would explode, and she wouldn't be able to stop it. Karen, still cheerful, lifted her head, enjoying each spoonful of ice cream without any suspicion. Then, suddenly, after one more spoonful, she began showing unusual signs. A brief grimace crossed her face, but it was quickly hidden by her smug demeanor. I couldn't hold back any longer. I stepped out from the corner of the room and moved closer. I calmly, with a soft but clear voice. Selena, are you sure you like this ice cream? Karen, cheerfully, surprised, not noticing the change in my tone. Oh, you're home. I was just looking at some things. She jumped when she saw me, but quickly reacted without any shame. This ice cream is wonderful, thank you. It's so sweet. I didn't expect you to pick such a tasty one. I, smiling slightly, my gaze calm but sharp. I'm sure you'll never forget this one. The words I spoke felt like a sign of change. Karen continued eating, but the joy on her face began to fade. After just a few spoonfuls, Karen started coughing uncontrollably. At first, she tried to maintain her composure, but soon her face turned bright red, as if a wave of heat had swept over her. A sudden burning sensation spread in her mouth, causing her to cough relentlessly. She put her hand over her mouth, but her throat felt even more painful, making her panic. Her eyes widened, and she rushed around the house, desperately searching for water to quench her burning thirst. But it was all in vain. Sweat started pouring down Karen's forehead, causing her to stumble, her body trembling. Her face turned from bright red to a pale green, and soon she couldn't hold back her tears as they streamed down her cheeks. She sobbed uncontrollably, her voice choked from the pain. Why is this happening? What's happening to me? She muttered, her hands gripping the walls, desperately trying to find something solid to hold on to. I stood from afar, my eyes never leaving her. But inside, I felt a satisfaction I couldn't describe. Seeing Karen in such a panic, tears rolling down her face, I couldn't suppress this feeling. She had hurt me so many times, and now it was time for her to learn a lesson she truly deserved. The pain she was experiencing was the price for violating my rights. I slowly approached, not in a rush, not showing any haste, but simply watching her writhe in agony. Karen, coughing violently, sobbing. "What have you done?" "This. This is so hot. I can't breathe." I, calmly, without any worry, my voice even. "Did you think you could take my things without facing consequences?" Karen, panicking, coughing continuously, her eyes widening in pain. "I can't breathe. What did you do?" "This is too hot. I can't stand it." She staggered around the house, her legs weak, but no matter how much water she drank, the burning pain in her mouth and throat wouldn't subside. Karen collapsed to the floor, clutching her throat, unable to stop coughing, unable to stop crying. I stood there, not in a rush, just smiling gently, watching her struggle in pain. As Karen began coughing violently and couldn't control the pain, I realized the situation was becoming more serious than I had imagined. She was panicking, unable to breathe, her face flushed red, her hands clutching her throat, struggling to breathe but failing. Seeing her nearly collapse, I decided I couldn't just watch any longer. Despite everything she had done to hurt me, I still felt a sense of responsibility in this situation. I quickly grabbed my phone and called an ambulance. I rushed, worried. "Send an ambulance immediately. Someone's been poisoned by extremely hot chili. She can't breathe and is in extreme pain." While waiting for the ambulance, Karen continued coughing violently and sobbing uncontrollably, frantically searching for water to drink but unable to ease the pain. Her body was shaking, sweat pouring down like a shower. She collapsed on the floor, unable to get up. This feeling, though I knew she deserved it, still made me feel a bit of sympathy when I saw her in such a state. The ambulance arrived quickly, and the paramedics immediately rushed to help Karen. A doctor and nurse quickly checked her condition. After providing first aid, they swiftly loaded her onto the ambulance, and I heard the doctor speak seriously. "She's suffering from burns to her mouth and throat mucosa. She may need long-term treatment. This is a serious situation that could have severe consequences." As the ambulance left, I sighed in relief, but at the same time, I knew this was just the beginning. This incident wouldn't just end with her being in pain. It would force her to face legal consequences. A few days later, the authorities got involved. The police came to the neighborhood to investigate the incident. They came to me for a statement and began investigating Karen's actions. When the investigators asked me for details, I clearly and thoroughly explained everything, from Karen taking my ice cream without permission to me replacing it with the chili powder I had bought. I also showed them the video footage from the neighborhood surveillance camera, which recorded Karen taking and eating the ice cream without asking for my permission. After the investigation, the police confirmed that Karen's actions violated the law regarding the invasion of personal property and causing harm to others. Not only was she required to compensate for her actions, but she also faced additional charges, including abuse of power in her role as the president of the HOA. The authorities worked quickly and efficiently, leaving Karen no way to escape. When the final verdict was handed down, Karen not only had to pay compensation, but also faced a light prison sentence for abusing her power and violating personal property. The neighborhood where I live, once always peaceful, now became silent and filled with scrutinizing glances. People began to avoid her. Stories about her were brought to light, and no one wanted anything to do with Karen anymore. But the matter didn't end there. Karen not only had to compensate for her invasion of my property, but she also had to face jail time for abusing her power. Everyone in the neighborhood knew about it and started passing the word around about her actions. In the days that followed, Karen couldn't step outside without feeling the contemptuous gazes of the neighbors. At this point, she was no longer the powerful, arrogant woman she had once portrayed. She became an outcast, isolated and shunned. The respect the neighborhood once had for her was gone. The peaceful neighborhood that had once existed now became silent and heavier than ever. The day Karen was forced to leave the neighborhood was drawing near. Karen was asked to leave after the authorities intervened, and she no longer had the strength to resist the legal conclusions. Everything she had built over time crumbled in an instant. She faced great humiliation, and in the end, no one wanted to see her anymore. The final scene I witnessed was of her quietly leaving the neighborhood, not daring to look anyone in the eye, with the clear contempt in the gazes of the neighbors. Everything had come to an end, and everyone in the neighborhood knew that Karen had received her lesson. In the end, I felt a sense of satisfaction seeing Karen face the consequences of her actions. The whole neighborhood boycotted her, and Karen had to leave in shame. This feeling, however, wasn't because I wanted her to suffer, but because I knew that, after all, she had learned that not everything can be done without facing responsibility. She had violated my rights, and now she no longer had a place in this community. The neighborhood returned to its peaceful state, but we all knew that even a small incident could completely change someone's life. What do you think of the story? Have you ever encountered a Karen like this? Leave a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Karen Karma channel.